Welcome back to City Talk News. I am your host, Monica Guidry, and in our studios today, we have a special guest, the host of Kahari, Free at Last. And in our studio as well, we have Republican candidate running for City Council, Ibrahim. So, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Monica. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your background. Where are you from, Ibrahim?
I'd be loved to. Firstly, I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Kahari and Monica. I am Ibrahim, last name S-O-W. I hail from Senegal, West Africa. It is the lion-looking country right there on the tip, on the border of the Atlantic, which is a big border. So that's where I'm from. Came here when I was 8 with my 2 older brothers. We came here just like any other new American. We came with a narrative of opportunity, and so here I am.
City Council, wow, that's a big jump.
Yeah.
Why do you think you should be on City Council?
Well, I think I should be on City Council because I'm a qualified candidate. For one thing, I represent a whole bunch of neighborhoods as well as populations that don't have adequate representation, I feel, as far as new Americans, as far as millennials, business owners, entrepreneurs. I represent all those, including neglected neighborhoods, because I'm from the Far East Side, and a lot of problems that they have there could be echoed in different parts of the city. And so I am here to make the city work for the people that pay for it.
Sounds like you're for district elections then.
I am. It is, aside from a civilian review.
So you want to get rid of the at-large system in district?
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it is part of the innovative nature of American cities to be able to adapt to realities. And as the city gets bigger, at-large will no longer be sustainable, and it is easily manipulative. So I feel like we need to be innovative as a city because we are the ARC city as Columbus. And so that's one of the things I want to
Well, we have about 100,000 Latinos, maybe more. We have at least 100,000 Somalis, maybe more. So you're correct. We have a lot of new folk who are going to be registered voters and who need representation. How are you dealing with this in the city? How do you think they should be represented? Many are, some are legal, some are illegal, but how do you feel about that?
So being the first, come this past May, I was the first new American to ever make it to the November ballot. And so new Americans are already making history.
What's the difference between a new American and an old American?
Well,
I mean, you calling me an old American?
No, as young as you are,
I like that, I like that.
What we classify as a new American is someone that has been here and is in the process of integrating. And we have a majority of the immigrants that are here in Columbus are in the process of integrating, as far as being homeowners, as far as opening businesses up. And there's also old Americans, and we just call them regular Americans like anyone else. Once you've integrated and you are part of the society, you are no different than anyone else. But we want to make sure that those that are here, that are building up that part of that integration process and wanting to be full-fledged Americans like everyone else, because they are citizens like everyone else.
Very interesting.
So tell us a little bit about your platform, Ibrahim.
So there's a whole bunch of things that I want to do, but 2 things that I focus on mainly is resource access and neighborhood investment. Being from the Far East Side, I'd knocked doors on the West Side, I'd been to the South, and there's a lot of people that say this is the first time a candidate has ever come to their door. And they tell me how their roads are not paved when it's snow time, they're last tier priority. People are speeding on their one-way streets. Their homes, they're next door to vacant ones that have been vacant and are becoming drug houses for the last 20 years. So those are one of the things that I hear a lot. And those are the people that I'm trying to be advocates for. Because obviously, if you're complaining about a problem to where you're numb about it, no one is paying attention to you. And I want to be able to pay attention to them. And the other thing is resource access. As a new American, as well as just a black man on the Far East Side, there's a lot of resources that we have in the city that you don't have access to. As far as did employment, as far as workforce development, as far as the capital for business, for small businesses, and quality schooling, as far as attainable housing, all quality, all affordable, and things that are in the city that people don't have access to. And I want to be able to make sure that City Hall goes to people and ensures that the city works for those that pay for it. Because at the end of the day, you're a public official, but you're also an employee. And I have to make sure that that level of common sense and that level of integrity and compassion comes back to City Hall, and that's what I want to do.
Black Lives Matter. That's a big issue in the city and across the country.
Yep.
Locally, there's efforts to put together a Columbus Civilian Community Board, which will function as a review board, police community review board.
Yep.
What's your position on that? Do you support that or do you oppose it?
No, I support the Civilian Review Board, because the one thing that I guess any city has to do is make sure that people that are doing things are accountable for what they do. And for a city attorney that's supposed to work in tandem with our officers and detectives, we have to make sure that there is a middleman there to ensure that they don't get too comfortable with each other, because then things fall through the cracks and people get ignored.
There's no accountability.
There's no accountability. And so anything that allows for us to have some level of people's oversight on anything, let alone be city council or city hall, whether it be the police or whether it be the attorney's office or the county prosecutor. We have to make sure that people are accountable for the job that they do, because at the end of the day, they're elected or appointed, but they're experts. They're expected to be experts in what they do. And we have to make sure that they're upheld to a standard. And so I support any level of oversight, including the Civilian Review Board.
That's pretty powerful. Marijuana, you know that's a big issue, and I've asked all the other candidates this, so I got to ask you.
All right.
The African American community, many say yes, many say no, but there's a deep concern about the impact of Issue 3, which allows medical marijuana and allows recreational marijuana.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on Issue 3?
You know, if it's approved in November, we'd be the first state. I guess that's not news to anyone, to allow it to pass like in that size where you can use it for anywhere.
Well, Colorado's already done it. There have been some other states.
Well, but when Ohio does it, it's special.
Well, oh, that was a nice comeback. That was a nice comeback. But do you support both the medical and the recreational, or do you support one or the other?
I think there's a level of common sense to where if you do want people that use it for medical purposes, we're not going to keep it from them. So I feel like that's a no-brainer. But when it comes to recreational use, there's a level of choice. We have the alcohol that kills a lot more people. No one is looking to prohibit that. We have cigarettes that are giving people cancers, and we're not prohibiting that. Because marijuana, I feel it should be a choice. We should be able to not judge people on whether they have a bag of pot walking down the street, but whether it addresses social issues. So
you're concerned about the criminalization aspect of it?
That's what I'm concerned about, because there's too many black and brown boys that are hauled off to prison for mandatory minimum sentencing because they have a bag of pot. And that's something that we should stop, because we're tearing down families' neighborhoods.
But some doctors say that marijuana lowers the IQ by 8 points. They also say it affects children. And they also say that this proposal, which will put a half a pound of pot in somebody's home, is going to have children smoking this stuff. Aren't you concerned about that?
That is true. But at the end of the day, discipline starts at the home. And if parents are worried that a law will allow for their families, for their children to be taken up by what their peers do, then those homes need to kind of realize that they are doing something wrong. If parents are afraid that if marijuana is legalized in the state of Ohio, that their children will start smoking, they need to do better as parents. Now, I apologize for anyone I've offended, but that is just the reality of it. If you're afraid that your child is going to be taken up by peer pressure, you need to work better.
So it's all right to have cigarettes in our community. It's all right to have wine. Now it's all right to have pot. Is that what you're saying?
I feel like
is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is, if we're going to allow for alcohol to be in everyone's hands, to be accessible, and yet it kills more people, then we should hold a level of standard to everyone. We shouldn't be hypocritical just because we decide that something is wrong.
But you're losing 8 IQ points.
That is true. That is true.
Brain cells are
That is true. That is why.
Does it bother you?
No, it bothers me, of course. What I'm saying is, if we're going to allow for certain worse things in society, we shouldn't discriminate against certain things that are not as bad as other things that are already accessible to our kids. That is what I'm saying.
I guess it depends on
the
which
social
doctors you
needs,
talk to.
the social needs that it will address, like not having our black and brown boys in prison for carrying a bag of pot down the street, that is something that we need to stop. And if people in positions of power are not going to reverse in those courts or those judicial systems, how we're filling our prisons up with people that look like me. If we have to go to the ballot box and vote yes in order for people to address that, then by all means, I'm voting yes in November.
Yes.
Whew. You good? Feel you. Okay, so why you, Ibrahim? We have lots of candidates that have held political seats. They've been in politics before. What experiences do you have that qualifies you?
So there's like you said, there's a pool of candidates with everyone is offering something different. But what I bring is whole populations that are not represented, for one, including millennials, new Americans, small business owners, entrepreneurs, because I am in all of those, including people in neglected neighborhoods because I'm a resident of the Far East Side. Other thing that I bring to the table is that I have a different perspective. Being an American, I have a different perspective to how to innovate a city, how to make a city better and inclusive for everyone that calls it home, for everyone that pays for it. And that is something that other candidates can't say. Third thing that I bring is I have a real story with inaccessibility to resources. And there's a lot of people that can say, we don't have accessibility to resources that we pay for. That is something that I'm going to bring. A lot of systems work in the city, a lot of systems don't. We're going to make sure systems that don't work get work. And systems that are not working as properly, we fix them up. And systems that don't need to be in the system, we remove. That is the level of perspective and innovative thinking that I bring as a millennial, as a new American, as someone with a new perspective that I guess wants to make this city better for everyone. Because at the end of the day, I have to live here too.
Right. I just have a real quick follow-up question. You mentioned millennials a lot. Millennials are primarily our viewers. What is your message to them?
My message to them is, I am a 24-year-old recent college graduate running for Columbus City Council. That shows everyone that you don't have to be of a certain age or of a certain expertise to be able to do any certain kind of thing. Millennials are uniquely positioned to be revolutionaries in this city and in this country, if not the world. We're the ones that make moves happen. We're the ones that bring about positive change. And at the end of the day, we want to be able to make sure that we have a force big enough where millennials can call a world tomorrow something that we made today. And I tax that with every millennial. That, I mean, just because I'm doing it doesn't mean everyone else can't. I task everyone to make change where they are.
Well, thank you, Ibrahim, for joining us today in the studio.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for watching City Talk News. We'll be right back after this.
Join City Talk Nation and follow us for more videos, behind-the-scenes footage, and your chance to win prizes at
Welcome back. I am your host, Monica Guidry, and this is City Talk News. Today we have a special guest with us, host of Kahari Free at Last. And in our studio we have Republican candidate Dimitrious Stanley. So, Ohio State football player, great player.
Thank you.
Why City Council?
Why City Council? Because I wasn't doing enough for the community that I love, that I'm going to have to retire in, that my mother's going to have to retire in 5 years. And you know, it wasn't that I planned it. I don't call myself a politician. I'm a leader that I think can give a lot to my city because it's given me everything I have from top to bottom. And so when Mayor Coleman said, I'm not running for a 5th term, you know, I kind of went on Facebook because my mother tried to get me to do this for a long time and I just never was interested in politics. And so he said that, and I went on Facebook and said, I hear Mayor Coleman not running for a 5th term. I need some votes. Who's with me? Ha, ha, ha. Well, it was, 500 messages, emails, likes, and all this saying, we would support you. A guy emailed me, said, I think you should do it. Introduced me to this guy, introduced me to these 2 guys, and the next thing you know, I'm in the midst of it. So that is where it stands today.
Dimitrious, you're coming on City Council at such a turbulent time. I'm
Right.
sure with the
Right.
red flex in the background and all of these things going on.
Mm-hmm.
How does that impact how you think in terms of what you're seeing?
It's very disappointing, man. I've learned a lot about this city. I've learned a lot about how the group that sits in those 7 chairs right now, how they perform and how they act. And it's kind of a bully. And they call people and they tell people, don't donate to this guy. And if somebody donates and they find out, they call them and rip the group. So, you know, I'm a person who really cares about this city.
That's happening right now?
That's happening right now, brother. Just happened this past Friday.
Wow.
So, you know, that's something that I find very disappointing because I love this city. You want me on city council because I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not in it to climb the proverbial political ladder. I'm in it for Columbus, for my mother. She's retiring in 5 years. I want to make sure the city is in a good place so she can live out the rest of her life. And, you know, right now we're stable, but we're stable on a decline, and they're not doing for the entire community what I think should be done. And I can tell you some of the things that I've read and I've researched that kind of tells me why it's happening.
What would you do differently?
You know, and lawyers, they study law and they're great at what they do. They take time, it takes the years, and passing the bars that's a tough thing to do. You gotta be a pretty smart person. But when it comes to the group that's supposed to deal with an economics, you need people that can put boots on the ground, go out, shake hands, and meet businesses down in North Carolina or different parts of the region to try to convince them to come to Columbus. And that's where I think lawyers, people come to them. You know, they don't have to get out and search for people. They usually pass the bar and they get in some big firm where the big firm just kind of throws it their way. I just think that concept for city council is why we are in declining industries. That's our reputation around the country. We don't have any talent. We're not differentiated or unique. This is what the country thinks of Columbus. You see what I'm saying? And so when you haven't got out and showed people what we're good at, and we honestly don't know. So I'm trying to figure out what are we really good at that we can start with right now and go out and find the right people to bring their companies here. Now we got to be willing to help, you know, maybe some tax abatements to help them, because I want them in the city, not outside of 270 Marysville. You need them in the city, because one of the issues we're having is transportation. Well, if transportation is an issue, you bring the work to the people and then you build them up that way. And I just think too many times they're worried about their next campaign. They're worried about getting out and getting people to raise money and give them dollars, but they're not focusing on what I think city council should be focusing on.
So Dimitrious, what is your platform?
My platform is jobs and education. And I know a lot of people say, you know, that's not city council's job to worry about education, but you can't talk about jobs and not talk about education. They have to go hand in hand, because right now you look at the way our country's set up, 30% of people in this country either finishes college, goes to college and finishes. Well, 70% of them don't go to college or don't graduate from college. And we've been funneling everybody through this education hole, A's, B's, and C's, and testing. Well, everybody's not good at that. And so you're not keeping kids engaged by forcing them to A's, B's, and C's. I'm one of the 70%, because if it wasn't for football, I don't know if my grades would have been as good as they were. I did it because I had to, my self-esteem stayed high, and that's what kept me coming back, knowing I have to be eligible over here. So we have to figure out how to educate kids, not just academically, but how to educate them to live the rest of their life if they don't go to college. And I think that's one of the mistakes. And so when I talk about jobs, I got to talk about how we're being educated, not that we're being educated, but how. And I think those two intertwine. And if we get that 70%, because if you look at the rest of the country, you look at all over Ohio, and you look at the city, it's the same problem. We don't have the talent to fill the actual jobs we have. So why would I stay in Columbus when a high income tax, and I can't find the talent? So I go to, you know, Mexico, Puerto Rico, find the talent.
Taking the money out of the country.
Right.
Yeah. Let me throw this. As you know, Black Lives Matter is a pretty big issue.
Absolutely.
When you start dealing with the police shooting of unarmed African Americans, as well as black folks shooting each other, that's also a major issue.
Right.
There's a movement afoot right now to set up a police community civilian review board.
Right.
Will you support that effort?
I absolutely would, but I think keeping the two separated, having a civilian group and a police group, that's going to just cause combativeness.
Well, it would be one.
Oh, one group. Everybody, see, the way I understood it, it would be a civilian and
they could
a
sit
cop.
on I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be able to be a part of it.
Like at the same time,
Yes.
watching the film, seeing what happened at the same time, and you know, having the emotion right there when they're with the group. That, I think that would be, yes, I definitely support that.
But the citizens feel like they pay their salary. So
Right.
therefore, they have to be somehow accountable or responsible in the final analysis to the city.
Right.
So, but there's been efforts to develop more effective relationships. So they believe a citizen review board would make that happen.
I absolutely agree with that.
So you support that
I
effort?
support that. I support, because there's a two-piece to the system. It's the civilians and it's the police department. And I care for both the police and I care for both the civilians, the citizens of this city. So we can't make it where it seems like it's a combative thing. We have to figure out down the line, what do we have to do? And I'll tell you, I visited the Hague Center over there off of Hague, the police officers training facility. And, you know, like simple things like this, what does this to you say? This
Hands
means,
up, don't shoot.
Right, hands up, don't shoot. Let me tell you this is the mistake we're making as black folks in this country. We are doing that, and you know what a cop is trained? Yes, you tell me you don't have a weapon, but I'm trained that you're still a major threat. See how that's a mistake? 30 feet over this way. They're trained. Now, we have to let people know how they're trained, and until we can get that fact out there, I think it's still gonna be the same mistakes. 30 feet over there, they're trained. That person, if they have a weapon or whatever, by the time you unholster your gun, he still can get to you and harm you. So they're trained that way, but if I'm 30 feet away, this man shouldn't think I'm a harm. No, that's not the rule. So, you know, that's the type of things we have to get out there.
So
and let
all
the
of those
public
things have to be changed.
have to be
and
changed.
that can be changed at the city level, is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, you know what, even if it comes down to putting a program, well, one big thing is we need to get DARE back. That's first and foremost, because you're not gonna change a kid once they hit high school. We all know they think they know everything, but you have to get back in the early parts of school. And, you know, scientifically and statistically, you need to be in their minds at 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade. We're going after them in high school. It's too late. So there's a lot of things that I think I could bring to the table to make sure we don't have all those problems. But number one, I tell you, all these politicians telling you, I'm gonna stop crime, I'm gonna stop drugs, I'm gonna stop infant mortality and all that, until they start focusing on the first part of life and stop focusing on programs, we're still gonna have those
First
problems.
part of life is what, economics?
K through 12. And
Education.
Education, and making sure that 70% is getting just as much as that 30% that's gonna go to college. Until we get that 70% back on track, you can't stop any of that stuff. And that's my thought process.
Just have another quick one. You mentioned
ahead.
safety. What about marijuana legalization? Issue 3, where do you stand on that?
I'm good with it. I will vote for it.
You gonna vote for it?
Absolutely. If you're going
For recreational use?
No, for the medical
Wait a minute now,
aspect
well,
of it,
issue
yes.
3 has both medical and recreational.
Okay, well, we drink alcohol recreational, and it kills people, 1,500 people a month. And if you're gonna legalize alcohol, why are you not legalizing marijuana?
So you want people smoking and stoking? Is that what you said?
I wish they would
I know
take
you're not saying that.
Yeah, no, don't be putting that in my mouth.
Words in your mouth.
I'm just asking.
I wish they would take alcohol off the market, because alcohol is proven aggression, stupid decisions, jail, accidents, killing people. Marijuana helps people with health issues, keep an appetite, they keep them around for their family members. Go look at some of these stories about kids who've been on all this medication. They're 1 to 5 years old, taking 22 pharmacy pills, and then they take this one THC extract pill. Now they're down to 2, they're not having any more seizures, and they're living a normal life. So I think that is the most powerful part of why I would go for marijuana. The legalization, I think we should have some of the same rules as alcohol. They find a way to test you when you're driving. If you're it's the same thing, but this is way more dangerous than that will ever be.
So Dimitrious, Stanley, why you? What has prepared you up to this point in your life where we can feel comfortable with you being on city council?
Because number one, I absolutely care about this city. I absolutely care about the people in this city. And I absolutely think the way I've lived my life over the last 20 years, I've been doing community service. I've been, in the suburban schools, I've been in the city schools, I talk to kids, I go mentor, I do public speaking on motivation and leadership. And I think I have those because I made it all the way to, the NFL. Right. And I think learning what I learned along the way, and then having that hardship right after I got done playing football, where I was depressed, I didn't know which direction to go, I picked myself up. And from that point, I was a corporate banker at Fifth Third. I had my own company. I had a TV show for 10 years. I had a radio show for 2 years. And now I'm in the home healthcare world. So and I was in the dumps. And if I can pick myself up, you can't pick someone else up until they know how to pick themselves up. So that's what makes me feel like I'm the one you should put in one of those seats.
So lastly, what is your message to our viewers? We have a lot of millennials that watch this show. What would you tell them?
I understand. I understand. I can relate, you know, and a lot of problems in today, because I'm that 70%. I'm that 70% that I wasn't the smartest, but I was motivated. I understand where they sit, and I understand that when they start focusing on this college thing, and then they put you in this, oh, I'm getting D's and C's, I'm dumb, but yet I could be a genius at an engine or putting a computer together. I understand that. So for the people that are coming up, especially right now, I know that's what we have to do. And until we do that, we're not going to have the talent we need for the jobs to even bring them to Columbus. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like I can relate. I understand them. I understand. I didn't grow up with the silver spoon in my mouth. I grew up fighting my own way. When I left home, I bought my own cars. I bought everything myself. I did it for myself. So I understand when my parents just didn't hand me everything. I worked my way there. So I understand what it takes to work to get yourself successful, and what it takes and how you have to do it, what you have to look like, how you have to present yourself. I understand all that. And that's why I think they should vote for me.
Well, we definitely feel your passion. Definitely. We thank you for being here today, Dimitrious.
Thank you for
Stanley.
having me. Absolutely.
Do you have anything else?
Oh, well, if we're out of
Go
time,
ahead. No.
I was just going to ask you one more question.
Oh, go ahead.
What grade do you give the current city council?
From what I know now, and for the fact that our reputation around the country and in this region economically is no talent, it is declining industries, it is high taxes, I give them a C.
Okay.
Because your job is to bring businesses here. But when you focus on programs all the time, and somebody that's telling you, hey, I want to put you in this program, they're telling you, I messed up on you in the beginning. Don't mess up in the beginning, do it right here. You do it right on the front end, that's less programs.
So you give them a C?
A C.
See?
Absolutely. For what
That's
I'm
not a
learning.
D, that's not an F, that's not a
You
B
heard
or
it.
an A.
C.
They give an effort. And a C was an effort, but I don't know if it's just that's their philosophy.
C good enough for you?
No.
What you want?
I want an A. I want
right.
an A. The lowest I'm going is an A minus. That's my goal.
Well, we're going to pause right here because we can go on. So we're going to have to bring you back another time because
That's
this is
good.
a great conversation. So thank you again for being with us today.
My pleasure, ma'am. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for watching City Talk News. We'll be back soon.